Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds. In today's video topic, we are going to showcase what I believe to be the best Warpath build in the game currently. Wave 330 is the current record for this build, and I'm sure you could push it farther if you wanted to. We've also pushed 300 corruption as well, with the sub-minute shade kills, absolutely the best performance I've gotten out of Warpath. If you want to support the channel, I'd suggest liking and commenting on the video, as that's the best way to support my work here at Epic Builds. You could also subscribe to the channel, as that's completely free and it makes it so you never miss a video. So the main interaction in this build is we're going to use max attack speed Warpath to proc Flame Burst given to us by Holy Aura. We get a Flame Burst proc every 6 attacks on the enemy, and if we are at 200% attack speed with Warpath, since it has a base attack rate of 2 per second, that is every second we get a Flame Burst proc. We can also press the Holy Aura button to bring it down to 3 attacks per Holy Flame Burst, which means we do have 2 Holy Flame Bursts per second, sending our DPS through the moon. This interaction also solves all of our clear, because if you hit 5 mobs, you trigger 5 flame bursts at once, one on each enemy, and all of these can hit each other if they're close enough, giving us buttery smooth gameplay. Since we are playing Warpath, it gives us access to one of the best items in the game, Wings of Argentus, as the 40% damage reduction plus 1 to Warpath, because we convert to fire melee, and 40% haste on hit makes it one of the best chests for us to run in the game, but you can run just rare until you get Argentus, as it's only required if you want to push arena. We're also running the node that gives us 100% fire penetration if we're wielding a scepter, and 10% global base critical strike chance if we're wielding a sword, and since we're dual wielding both, we get both benefits. Thanks to all of this, it allows us to push arena waves with ease, and it makes our monolith clear easily one of the best things I've ever had with Warpath. The only mob type I had too much difficulty with are Osprix Raiders, as they are insanely fast for 300 plus waves, but we run in Aurora's Time Glass to give us a second chance against these fast birds. This build is actually very new player friendly as well, as the uniques that I'm running, Argentus and Aurora, aren't needed until you push Arena. Sure, I have really good gear in the guide, but all of this gear is easily farmable and easily creatable. I'll be linking a budget build planner in the description so you can get started with this build very easily. If you want to level this build, I'd suggest running Holy Trail Javelin, as the free damage it provides makes your levelings an absolute breeze. You can run any plus adaptive kind of damage, any adaptive spell damage, and your leveling will be like insane. I will be including a planner for that as well in the description. Till you get Javelin set up, I would suggest utilizing Hammer Throws. You don't get Javelin until like level 20. Overall, this build blew me out of the park, as after the nerfs to Volcanus Warpath, I thought Cast on Hit Paladin was dead, but due to the base crit and fire pen inside Warpath, it elevates this build to a whole new level. With that being said, let's get into the video, shall we? Here we are in game with the build. The name of the build is Stronghold Crusader, as that's the paladin I've been using this patch. And for the leaderboard, I want to scroll down. Ignore all of this. A lot of this is cheated, as we know. The only ones that we know that are actually real people is Shock Meta. That's Foe. That's a friend of mine. Then, if we scroll even more down here, I believe we have Mao, which is someone I know. Mao is a really good Lich player. And then if we go even more down, then we have Tunk. I know him because he's a marksman. I know Tunk. He's actually the creator of Tunk Labs. And then we have Lizard here, which is Arena Demon. And I'm right about here, 330 Stronghold Crusader. So overall, I believe I'm pretty high. You can ignore a lot of this because we don't know any of these people. And sadly, due to the game being offline, it's very easily cheatable. So we only can trust people we know slash people that have footage. So with that being said, let's get into the build, shall we? So for Warpath itself, we take 1 point travel into Iron Reach. Although the area is nice with Warpath because the bigger area you hit mobs in, the bigger area we can proc Flame Burst in, right? So you want as much area as possible, even though we're using this as travel. 2 points travel into Whirling Steel. Sadly, they removed all of the global more damage inside of Warpath, so we do not actually benefit from this for Flame Bursts. but it's just travel, so you can grab 5 points into Cyclone of War. So the way this node works is if I'm wielding a sword, I get base crit. If I'm wielding an axe, I get leech. If I'm wielding a mace, I get 50% fizz pen. And if I'm wielding a scepter, I get 100% fire pen. So the way this works is since I'm running a scepter and a katana, which is a sword, it means that we get both the base crit, which is very nice. As you can tell in our damage here, our base crit goes all the way up to 80% in in the planner here. I think, yeah, you can see it. Yep, 80%. And then it also gives us the fire pen, which this is in fact global fire pen. So there are a few issues with this though. If for instance, if you were to use judgment and then start warpathing, it will not give your judgment the 100% fire pen. But if it happens while you're warpathing, i.e. like right now, like for instance the flame burst, it will actually give you the fire pen. So that's nice to know that it can only happen while you're doing warpath, right? It also works for Ignite. I have a friend Amarathi. He's doing Ignite Warpath with like 400k ticks. I'm just doing the crit version because it's fun. Yeah, this node is definitely one of the best nodes in the entire build. 2 points travel into Unchained for the mana cost, and then 1 point into Reckless Spin. We pretty much counteract the resistance by being a paladin, and we could get to 0 mana cost with Warpath, which is pretty neat. We take 1 point travel into Quicksilver Wind. If you only want to play like monoliths and you do not care about arena, what you can do is you can take the nodes here, Path of Heavens, and you can take 2 points out of it and place it back into Quicksilver Wind so that your monolith clear speed will be even faster. But if you want to actually push arena with this build, then you will definitely want Path of Heavens instead. Then we take 1 point travel into Gorebringer, 1 point travel into Earth Scorcher. The best thing about this node is it does convert our Warpath into fire, which means the +1 to Warpath here actually does work. So that actually does work because we are a fire tag skill. Finally, after so long, Warpath is finally having a fire tag. Then we take 5 points into Path of Heavens. This will apply to our Holy Flame Burst because it is a spell and it has a lot of added damage effectiveness. As you know, it has I think it's like 200% or something like that. I think it's something dumb. And then if I move my head here, thankfully, thanks to the green screen, you can see that we have Winds of Justice. So I have 2 points in this node. Pretty much what this means is when I'm attacking a single target, you won't see it here. I will proc Smite, and mainly that's for extra single target, and it's for the extra attack speed that Smite gives us, as it gives us 20% increased attack and cast speed, which is really nice. It does consume Smite's mana cost, and since we're utilizing a scepter instead of a wand, we don't get the -3 mana cost. So Smite actually does cost a little bit of mana, it costs 3 mana, but we counteract that by having at least 1 mana regen roll on our gear, making it so we go up to like 10 mana regen, and it makes it so whenever we stop warpathing, we go back up in mana pretty quickly. And of course, we have stuff like reversal as well. Then for Holy Aura, we take 2 points travel into Rise Devotion, 4 points travel into Ruthless Blows, although this is a lot of increased fire damage for us, then 1 point into Flame Burst. After an enemy takes 6 melee hits, a Flame Burst is unleashed, dealing fire damage to surrounding enemies. If you did not know, this was buffed this patch. It used to be 8 melee hits, but now it's 6. And that's same to be said about while Holy Aura is active, it only requires 3 melee hits. So why that is I can show you. For instance, we get a flame burst every so often, right? But if I proc it, then we get one like every second. So it's very, very strong. We take 4 points into Improve Flame Burst for the 200% more damage because damage is king. This is our main damage source. 4 points into Fanaticism for the attack speed because we really do want to reach that 200% attack speed threshold, as you can tell here. So we can Holy Flame Burst twice per second, which is really strong. Then we take 3 points into Shelter the Storm to cap our resistances and to give us a little bit more endurance. You could probably get rid of these later on if you have better gear than me. Then we take 2 points into Fire Pen. I know we have the Fire Pen from Cyclone of War, but the more Fire Pen, the better, as we get 10% there and we get 16% here. So we get up to 126 Fire Pen, which is really, really nice. Then, of course, for reversal, this is your stereotypical reversal setup for a crit warpath build. Nothing too different here. Sigils, this is your stereotypical Sigils build for a crit build. Nothing too different here. And then Smite, this is a little different as we'll go over. I take 1 point travel into Holy Wave, 3 points into Righteous Flurry, 4 points into Righteous Flurry. Again, I don't know why they're Righteous Fury, then Righteous Flurry. There you go. This gives us 20% increased attack speed. This will proc if we proc Smite from our Warpath. So it just gives us extra attack speed. The main reason we're running this is because everything else in the game doesn't really help us. And this is the only thing that we can proc while spinning, thanks to Winds of Justice here, which is really, really nice for us. So it's definitely one of the best ways of getting more attack speed. And then everything else is just your stereotypical Smite damage tree. I do get a little bit of damage here, and it's decent single target, but it's nothing to scoff at, nothing too crazy, right? And that's being said, that's the skills. Now let's talk about the passives. So we take 7 points travel into Juggernaut for the strength, and it increases our warpath, our armor. I believe does not increase our damage actually, because I don't believe Holy Flame Aura. Holy Burst here. Let's see. Yeah, it only scales off attunement, so the strength does nothing, but it does give us resistance and percentage armor. Since we are dual wielding, we want to get as much armor as possible to mitigate that. 8 points into Fearless, we want as much HP as possible. 5 points to Armor Clad for the DR when nearby. This is pretty much every single enemy, because you're always going to be nearby enemies with Warpath because you want to be killing them. Then 4 points travel into Valiant Charge for the extra flat HP. You want as much flat HP as possible because, like I said, we're not running block, we're dual wield, so we have to make up for that. Then we take 1 point travel into Gladiator. So we take 15% increased damage, but it allows us to dual wield, which is the main reason why this build works. Then 5 points into Blade Master for the increased attack and cast speed if we have a sword equipped, which we do have a sword equipped, so that's a lot of our attack speed. As you can tell, we go all the way up to 76 instead of 156, 154%. So yeah, this is very, 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 very essential for the build. Then for Void Knight, we take 10 points into Abyssal Endurance for the physical and Void Res, as well as the HP. This is one of the best nodes in Sentinel, so it's pretty much a must-go for most Sentinel builds. Then we take 1 point into Void Corruption to give ourselves 11% crit multi, gets our crit multi up there to 300%. 300% is like the sweet spot. You don't really want more because it's diminishing returns, especially with our kind of gear, how like all of our gear is so like limited because of how much we're running. Then for Paladin, we take 8 points into Conviction, gives us Fire Pen and increased fire damage, best node in the game for us, pretty much. 8 points into Defiance. Attunement does scale our Holy Flame Burst by 4%, and the Elemental Res pretty much mitigates the extra resistance that we lose from spinning with Warpath. 10 points into Valor, as we want as much flat HP as possible. The healing effect is kind of nice, but we only want it for the flat HP. 1 point in Divine Bolt just gives us extra Divine Bolt procs. Sadly, due to the changes with Manifest Strike and all that, the Divine Bolts actually don't do that much damage. To be honest, the only reason I'm running Divine Bolts is, for 1, it's fun, 2, it's only 1 point, 3, it helps us with armor and fire shred, so it's completely fine. 7 points into Holy Symbol for the necrotic res and the HP, as getting as much resistance on the tree makes our gearing much easier. 10 points into Holy Precision for the crit chance. This was nerf / buffed, so it's buffed if you're running lightning skills. It's nerfed if you're running anything else other than lightning skills, which is sad, but it's completely fine because 200% crit is plenty. 12 points into Reverence of Duality for the increased health and damage, as we want as much HP as possible. I am running 12 points into Light of Rai for the movement speed because I want as much movement speed as possible, because I don't know about you, but I'm a busy person and I would like to have more movement speed so I can push monoliths faster so that I don't spend all day playing the game. And also as well, we have increased fire damage as well. So it's like good node. If you really want to push arena really, really far, what I would do is I would take 1 point travel into Faith Armor and then take 12 points into Prayer Aegis instead, as it gives us the Super Giga Chunk. And that's pretty much it for the build so far. I am level 100. The only passive I'm missing is, I believe, from Majasa herself, and I really don't care about doing the fight, so you can just deal with not having an extra passive. Also, I don't believe I ever do the time travel quest, so you're actually missing 2 passives, but who cares, really? Like, who really cares? Now, for idols, I run 4 Warpath AoE idols. This one right here, this is your best in slot. You want 4 of these. The shred armor is amazing because we hit so much with many different things. You want as much armor shred as possible, as it's a global more damage multiplier for all of your stuff. Then we run 4 HP idols. You could run crit idols as well. If your crit isn't good enough, you could run crit idols as well, which is really nice as it allows you to be very flexible with your gearing. Then for my helmet, I went for vitality, HP. Instead of that cooldown recovery speed, you could either run a armor shred effect, or you could run strength for armor. So I'm actually running cooldown. It brings our holy aura from 10 seconds to 9 seconds. That is very good for arena, but for everything else, it doesn't really matter. So you could do either. Our amulet, we are using an Aurora's time glass, but this is only for arena. If we want to be giga damage, we want to run a jade amulet with mana regen, spell crit, void ret. So mainly we just want the spell crit, and then instead of that mana regen, I would rather have crit multi, but then everything else can either be HP and poison res. This isn't a really good amulet. It's just what I have, to be honest. I didn't really go too far with that, but you can either run either and it's completely fine. Aurora actually even has attack speed, so like you could just run an Aurora's and be fine. For a scepter, the main stats you want is attack speed, spell crit, chill chance, and slow, obviously, and that's it. You're good. This is like your best in slot scepter. You want the spell crit so that you can cap your crit, because flame bursts feel terrible if you're not critting, and the attack speed is absolutely essential for us reaching the cap that we need, the 200% sweet spot. Then for our sword, we're running a katana. This is global crit multi. I have a really shitty katana. You could very easily push to 400% crit multi. If you had a better katana, you run crit multi here. You could have a much better one, but sadly, I don't. And if you get better crit outside, like for instance, if you run all 4 crit idols and then crit rings, you could actually run crit multi on the obsidian scepter if you want the big damage, right? But yeah, then you want shred on hit, as that's our best, one of our best stats, because we hit so much. Health on melee hit is insanely strong with Warpath, and you should be using it for every Warpath build where you can. And it gives us a lot of sustain because we're hitting 6 times per second, and that's per mob. So for instance, if you hit 5 mobs, it's multiplied by 5. Now I'm running increased damage rings with silver rings. You could run crit rings. You could run vitality rings for extra chunk. You could very easily get this up to 3,500 HP if you really wanted to. There's a lot of things you can do with this, but this is what I'm running. I'm running movement speed rings with double damage prefixes and just some suffixes. Same thing on this one. That strength and dexterity does nothing for us. This is just the best ring I had in my pocket. Sadly, my gambling luck has been terrible this patch. So this is just the best what I had. It helps me cap my crit avoid, but you can get much better. You can get HP, double damage, and do even more damage. Then for the belt, you get the cleanse. Cleanse is 100% required because I have no poison res. Now, you could build poison res. You could go to Holy Aura and grab poison res here. You could put poison res on your amulet or wherever else, I guess, if you're going to use an Aurora's Time Glass for arena. But this was absolutely essential to the push, as being able to cleanse off poisons off of us and bleeds from raptors is absolutely essential. So this is 100% what you want. I go for a mana regen roll to make it so when we're not warpathing, we regen our mana faster, which is good quality of life, crit avoidance, and then of course we go for HP. The gloves, I have really good gloves. I like showing off that I have really good gloves. You don't need this. You could do much better with just some void res gloves, which will be in the planner below, but this is just what I'm running. It's the same concept, just instead of endurance gloves, you could run just like void res gloves, and that would save you a lot of gearing. Then for the boots, this is your perfect boots. Obviously, I have T6 health, but you could go for T5 health instead. And then for the relic, this is your perfect relic on an Argent Crest for capping your resistances, crit multi, spell crit, frailty, because you want the reduced damage taken. Any amount of frailty is good, even 10% frailty because we hit so much. And then, of course, the 42% necrotic res is nice for capping our resistances. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the gear. That's pretty much it for the guide today. With that being said, if you got here already, I would heavily suggest commenting, as that's the best way to help me out, as it tells YouTube that I'm doing a good job. With that being said, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in